Welcome back. In Illinois, we're in the land of Lincoln, and he wore a top hat and was a top man. Joining me now is Dan Abrams to discuss his book, Lincoln's Last Trial. Good morning, Dan. Thanks for being with me today.
Hi, Alex. Great to be with you.
Yes, thank you. And now, Dan, let's start with this. You've written over 20 books so far. So why did you exactly decide to write about this trial? How did you discover this? Tell me a little bit of history there.
So the transcript was found in 1989 of this case. It's the only transcript that exists of any case that Lincoln has ever argued. And my co-author said to me, you know, there's this transcript out there, and it's a really interesting case, and no one seems to know about it. And of course, as you know, being in Champaign, that, you know, you say, oh, there's something about Lincoln that everyone doesn't know, and people probably roll their eyes and say, come on, what else could we know? How many more books can we write about Lincoln? Except this is different. This is a trial that many of even the Lincoln historians either knew or know little about. And so we really dug in here using the transcript as sort of the yoke of the story, and then learning everything we could about this trial, everything that led up to it with Lincoln the lawyer. And our story ends at the end of this case, which is 9 months before Lincoln gets the Republican nomination.
And Dan, you know, you're known for your trials that you've been involved in as a TV journalist. This seems like an extension for you. So can you kind of talk about, you know, where you got your start in this whole process doing trials?
So, you know, my first job in journalism was at Court TV, which at the time was, you know, the place that covered live trials. And as a lawyer and someone who was interested in journalism, it was a great combination. And actually, I've sort of recreated that now with the Law and Crime Network that I've started in an effort to show live trials once again. But that's how I got my start. And from there, went into working at broadcast networks, et cetera, doing legal analysis, legal coverage, and that's what ultimately brought me here. And I think, honestly, that's what brought David Fisher to me, meaning David and I knew each other a little bit, but he really came to me because he said, you know, this is what you do, is covering trials. And this trial is so interesting. You know, I'd like to collaborate with you on it, and we went from there.
And you know, so many people don't think of President Lincoln as a lawyer, but he actually was. So what was that like? What struck you about how he handled this case in particular?
Well, you know, he became at this point, remember, this is the pinnacle of his legal career. It's the last major case he did. He was one of the best-known lawyers in what was then known as the West. He had done everything from divorce cases to representing railroads. He actually represented a slave owner in one case. He did a whole lot of different kinds of cases, but this was his 27th murder trial. And what always impressed me was that Lincoln cared a lot in a case like criminal cases in particular on who he was representing. And did he think that the person was innocent or not? And he was careful about which cases he took. His specialty was in bonding with the jurors, which makes sense that someone who became a great political leader knew how to talk to people. And that was really Lincoln's specialty as an attorney. And I think you see that in the words in the transcript. And one of the things that I think makes this so special is, unlike some of his great speeches, where he wrote them out and took time and cross out words and consult with people on occasion, etc. This is Lincoln unvarnished. This is Lincoln extemporaneous. And I think that's what makes this transcript and ultimately, I hope, the book so special.
Absolutely. It'll be a special read for many people here in Central Illinois, hopefully. Dan, thank you so much for joining us. Very enlightening stuff about President Abe Lincoln.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dan. Well, we'll have this segment posted later on our website, IllinoisHomepage.net, with a link for the book. Thanks, guys. We'll be right back.